Hello, everybody. My name's James, and welcome to a very special Bank Holiday Monday Planet FPL podcast. And we are reintroducing Fulham again with our Fulham correspondent, Dara Cohen. How are you, Dara?
I'm very good, thanks, James. Good to be back. Although, hopefully, stay up this season, and
Well,
maybe
that's
maybe
probably best place to start, isn't it? Is how do you feel? Has this been expected? And how annoyed are you with the constant shit of you'll never play Norwich again and stuff like that?
I actually really want to play Norwich. It'd be great. Yeah, look, it is what it is. I think fans are likely to do that when you go up and down a couple of times. But there is a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League, and I think social media accounts such as like Sports Bible and all these just kind of play into it, and the fans just buy that. It's just like repetitive stuff that like gets batted around again and again. It's a little bit annoying, but we're big boys. We can take it.
How do you reflect on going back sort of 9 months and Marco Silva being appointed manager? And can you think back to how you felt at that time and what your expectations were?
Yeah, I wasn't too sure when he came in, and the kind of apprehensiveness that I had was mainly that he could be gone in a year if he does well, because that's what's happened previously. I did think it was an exciting an appointment, and there was definitely potential for him to do well there. And it's probably turned out better than any fan probably had expected, to pick up the pieces from last season and just instill some confidence back in the players, because it for the most part it's the same bunch of players that were relegated last season. So to turn it around and to win the league, well, pretty much win the league in the style that we have is pretty good.
You got 2 games to go. You need 1 point effectively, and mathematically 2, but because of the goal difference of plus 60, effectively you need 1 point from Monday's game with Luton and Sunday's game with Sheffield United to clinch the title. And that's, obviously if Bournemouth slip up, they've got a massive game on Tuesday that will also clinch the title for you. 99 goals as well, mate, is a staggering number. Surely you've changed something. I mean, obviously the manager has changed, but you mentioned it's basically the same kind of group of players that effectively got relegated, bar the large amount of loanees that you had in the club last season. Something stylistically has changed, hasn't it? Because I mean, the one thing about you last year was the amount of times we watched you and went, they've played well, don't ever feel like they're going to score. So something's changed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to dwell on Scott Parker too much and discuss him. I'd rather talk about Marco Silva. But I think I mentioned on previous pods last year that it felt like we were playing with the handbrake on a little bit, and that the players weren't really able to kind of express themselves enough. And Parker was setting the team up not to lose rather than to win games. And that's why we didn't score as many goals as we did. Like, I remember I did a pod with you when we were maybe level with Newcastle with about 10, 12 games to go. And at that point in time, the morale seemed really good and it looked like everything was going in Fulham's favour.
You had a few wins, haven't you? Like the win at Anfield, and you deserved it as well.
But we only scored 5 goals in the last 12 games and picked up 2 points. Like that, 2 points from a possible 30. That's not good enough.
Why did it? I know you don't want to touch on it much, but why did it end kind of so acrimoniously with Parker? And it feels like there's quite a bit of bitterness about obviously the way he went to Bournemouth and stuff.
Yeah, I remember hearing that he was linked in like February to Bournemouth. So maybe at that point in the season, his mind was already elsewhere. I think he wanted out. I think the fans maybe at the time were a bit undecided. Maybe some of them wanted to keep him, some of them didn't. It worked out well. It worked out well for both parties. I think that he's gone elsewhere, and we've managed to get another manager in. And stylistically, it's just been much more enjoyable to watch than the football. And I'm sure some Bournemouth fans would probably say the same. It can be a bit boring at times, but look, they've got results and they are where they are. And I think any Bournemouth fan would take the position they're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can we expect going forward with Silva? It feels like it's exclusively a back four. Is that correct?
Yeah, back four. There will be kind of one of the fullbacks will advance. We'll have to see what happens in the comings and goings in the summer, but the fullbacks are pretty key to the whole thing. So one will go forward, the other will like kind of slot in beside the other two centre backs. So there's always three protecting that line of defence. And 4-2-3-1 is predominantly what we've played, with two like holding Reed and either Seri or we've had Kearney back a little bit this season, and Shalaba has come in. Excuse me, but that might be an area we need somebody else in just to boost that center of the pitch. And then you've obviously got that three in behind Mitrovic, and actually oftentimes Mitrovic has been coming deeper, kind of a la Harry Kane, and just
I'm
swinging.
absolutely glad that you said that, because one of the things I was going to say, are we seeing a bit of Harry Kane in Mitch was exactly what I was going to ask you.
A similar sort of thing where I don't know if you watched the game against Man City in the Cup. He like comes deep, pings a ball over the top to Wilson, and Wilson just like basically just squares it for a tap into Carvalho, and that's pretty common in a lot of the goals that have occurred, or a lot of the big chances that have occurred this season. It's just ball in behind, Wilson's just playing on the last man, getting in behind, and then it's just a pullback or like a tap in basically.
Let's get straight into Mitch Rich while we're talking about him then, because I'm sure he's the one all FPL managers are probably already 50-50. Yep, he's definitely going in, or I can't be going there again. Yeah. I mean, what has he got this year? 41 goals, 7 assists as well in 42 starts is staggering. He's going to be a go-to FPL forward almost irrespective of fixtures, isn't he, opening day next season?
You'd have to think so, especially if he's priced similar to what he was in previous seasons, that 6.5, 7-ish price. Yeah, you'd have to think so. And like looking at the forwards that we've had this year, I don't see why you wouldn't take a punt on him.
Do you think the fact that what you said in terms of he's more than just a penalty box predator, which is still obviously where he gets most of his goals, has made it more elusive for him? He's become harder to mark because he's moving around the pitch more. Is that what do you think's really kind of aided his returns this season?
There's that, but I think Silva's definitely focused on set pieces a lot. I don't think we scored too many last season. I think we've had about 17 goals from set pieces this season, and Silva does something interesting. It'll definitely be interesting whether VAR pick up on it next year, but he's used kind of an NBA screen tactic. I don't know if you watch NBA, but basically a defensive player will just stand still and like block the run of the defender, so that then frees up Mitrovic to kind of run in behind. So they'll do this effectively blocking the runs of the defender. Someone will just stand there static and like they're just running into a Fulham player, and then there's Mitrovic on the back post completely free.
So it's targeted towards him as well. What I mean by that is the target is not just to use several different players at set pieces. Are you saying to me that Mitrovic is constantly the target, therefore it's to work situations for him?
It is, yeah, definitely. I've seen on corners as well, we don't necessarily always swing it in. We'll kind of recycle the ball and work different angles. So then the defense has been set up just to mark for that corner, and then like the angle changes a couple of times and they wait till the ball comes in. Mitro's just lost his marker. So his movement in the box is absolutely ridiculous. He's just finding space.
How do you feel about him? I mean, that might seem probably obvious, but a lot of people will be looking at it and going, too good for the Championship, not good enough for the Premier League. How do you feel about him?
I love him. I think all Fulham fans love him. And the way it was going last season, he wasn't even getting a game under Parker. Just didn't fancy him or didn't suit the style of football that Parker wanted to play. And it probably would have, if Parker had stayed, it probably would have been one of the two was going to leave, and that would have been a shame. Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a couple of clubs sniffing around him, but I think the amount of money that we'd be looking for would probably put a lot of teams off.
I take it you would be confident that he'll be with you opening day. I guess that's the elephant in the room no one's discussed, because he obviously has gone off so big this season that perhaps not so much in the Premier League, but in other top European leagues, they will look at a statistic like that and go, bloody hell, mate, this guy's got over 40 goals. He's proven at international level as well. Let's have a look. I presume Fulham it'd have to be a monstrous bid to sell now, wouldn't it?
I'd imagine so. I haven't even considered it, to be honest. I think he seems to be happy in London. Everything that he said has indicated that he's very happy, and he sees Fulham as his home. But if a Juventus or that kind of team came along and was looking for a striker and put the money on the table, then who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. What price would he have to be for you not to start with him game week 1?
Probably
good answer, mate.
I don't know. I'd probably, I mean, to be honest, I'd have to look at what the rest of the players come in at as well. Like if KDB is going to be 13 million and Salah is going to be 13 million and somebody else is probably Kane's going to be similar, then if he's any more than 7, you're probably not looking at him, are you?
But I think for the neutral as well, the forwards obviously been a massive letdown in FPL this season. So that even if Mitrovic does come in a little bit more next year, pay maybe 7. I want to say it's like 6.5 or 6 2 years ago, Dara.
I think it was 6 last year. I think it was 6.5 the year before that.
I mean, because he was very popular game week 1, despite the fact like you started with Arsenal opening day. A lot of people went with it. And I think a lot of people will again, won't they? Irrespective of the fixtures, just go, well, look, forwards are being shit. This guy looks like he can go and be consistent because the setup of the team's very different to 2 years ago. Just stick him in.
Yeah,
I can see even at 7 million, a lot of people going there. But I think most people are looking for under that, aren't they? I think
people would hope for that. I think realistically, he'd probably be about 7. But I think you have to look at each season that he's been in the Premier League in context. Like the first year we come up we were just awful, like absolutely horrific, and switched managers 3 times, and that didn't really help. Like he scored 7 goals in the first 11 games in the first year that we came up, and that was under Jukanovic. And then we switched to Ranieri, who was much more defensive minded, and then Parker again at the end. At the end, so he only 7 from 11 is really good going, and then with all the chaos that went on. And then last season, he only started 13 games. So can you really judge that as a full season?
No, you can't.
Probably not. And bear in mind, we were like relegation fodder both seasons. So 11 goals from probably one of the worst teams to be up, really.
All right. I want to talk to you about some of the rest of the players. Going back 2 summers, Dara, you were very high on Marek Rodak in goal. And obviously Areola came in on loan, who was obviously a very good signing. Rodak was dislodged again. There was a priority to buy Paolo Gazzaniga last summer. Rodak's got his place back. Is he keeping it this time, mate?
I don't know. Is the simple answer on that. I think that might be one area that we look to buy somebody or even get a loan. Like there's been rumors of Areola back because West Ham don't want to sign him. I'd happily take him in a heartbeat. I think Nick Pope was linked, but they look like they're probably out of trouble now, so that's probably a non-starter. But I don't know. He's probably not really had a fair crack at the whip in the Premier League, and I think some fans think that he probably deserves it, but the jury's still out on him. He's made a few clangers this season.
The problem is you've got to be ruthless, haven't you? You can't have sentiment once you come out the Championship and go into the Premier League. It feels to me like a similar situation perhaps with Tim Ream at centre-back, who's obviously played 44 games for you this season. Silva says some lovely things about him. He's out of contract, isn't he, in the summer? What's the plan? What are you expecting?
Yeah, I think from what certain players have alluded to, it's not really been said that he's leaving, but like Tom Kearney's posted something saying like, oh, great player and like best of luck and all this kind of thing. So it looks like we'll find out on Monday night. That'll be his last home game. I think he'll probably be moved on, and probably the right time to do so, because realistically, he's not going to be good enough for the Premier League.
Is Adarabioyo? Because I think most of us really liked the Adarabioyo and Anderson partnership. It didn't finish the Premier League season well, but for the majority of it, it had been a good partnership for you.
Yeah, I think Adarabioyo will be one of the centre backs, but we need someone else. Defensively, we definitely need reinforcements.
There's no chance of someone else stepping back in, like Alfie Mawson or anything like that.
I think he's going down to League One or two. That's what
okay,
I heard.
Yes. He was so highly rated, wasn't he, at Swansea? It's an interesting one to see what's happened with him.
I think it was injuries really that really hampered him. But he was in and around the England squad when we signed him. It's unfortunate.
Left back, we've got the same two in Anthony Robinson and Joe Bryan. Are you expecting to improve in that area?
Maybe. I think they're probably solid enough. They offer different qualities. Robinson with his pace going forward, and then Bryan maybe just a bit more steady, just defensively, maybe a little bit positionally aware. But probably both of them not the finished article, and probably not like Premier League. Well, I'd say and good enough quality, but maybe not good enough if we realistically want to have a good crack of staying up. So it could be one area to watch.
And the other flank, the right-hand side, because I noticed Dennis Odoi started the same amount of games as Kenny Tete this year, which if you'd have told me that last summer, I would not have believed you. What's happening on that flank?
Tete was injured for quite a while. He's been back in and out a little bit, but obviously we've had Nico Williams on loan since January, and he's just hit the ground running, really looked good, and hopefully there's going to be another option there to loan him back, or maybe even a permanent deal, I think.
So far, we talked about the goalkeeper and the back four, and we've identified you've probably got 4 new players coming in.
Potentially. I mean, I think we probably need about 5 or 6, realistically. If you're saying one set, like if you go centre back, if I was to pick out the 3 areas that we need, it's probably centre back. We need to sort out the right wing, and then probably centre mid. I think if you can get that spine, the guy that we've got from Shakhtar, apparently he's more of a left winger.
Yeah. Rather than Manus Solomon.
Yeah, that's the one. I don't know much about him, to be honest. I'm not going to claim that I do. Haven't watched any YouTube reels or anything like that. So
don't, because when you do that, Dara, he looks like the best player in the world. So I don't advise that, mate. Everything afterwards will just be disappointing, mate. Talk to me about this midfield area then, because Seri is suddenly, after years of being at the club, seems to become a bit of a fan favourite darling this year. So I hear. And he says he wants to stay for at least one more year in the Premier League. What's happened with him? Because he'd been completely cast off previously, whereas Parker didn't even pick him in the 25-man squad, did he?
No. I mean, the first year that when he signed, it was a bit of a scattergun approach, and I don't think he really fitted into the system. We didn't really have anyone to play beside him because you were playing Kearney, who was more of a creative player anyway, and you needed somebody that was a bit more robust, that was going to get stuck into tackles and break up the play. And now that we've got Harrison Reed there, who can just run around and just hound people down on the pitch, he's got a little bit more about him. He's allowed to express himself, and he's played some unbelievable balls, like through balls and balls over the top this season. He just looks like he's enjoying his football again. He probably needed that. I think, I mean, he was linked with Barcelona at one stage. I think probably the last couple of seasons has been a bit of a reality check for him. But he certainly looks like he's playing for the club and playing to win his place in the side. And he looks like he wants another crack at the Prem. Whereas I think Anguissa, who's still a Fulham player at this point in time, he just doesn't look like he ever wanted to play for the club.
So he's been at Napoli this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, we're just waiting to hear if they're going to exercise their the buyout clause, or not the buyout, sorry. They had an obligation. So I think it was 10, 15 million or something like that.
I guess if not, then he could come back into the squad and compete there as well, can he? Or is Silva not
Yeah,
high?
I don't know whether I think Silva's kind of open to the idea. I'm kind of done with him. I just don't think he's not consistent enough. Like, he showed flashes of what he can do, but I don't think the consistency has been there.
Whereas you're saying now, obviously, Seri has shown that this year.
Yeah, he's been really good. Started the season very well.
And I know you're quite high on Harrison Reed. You spoke about him a couple of years ago in terms of his importance to you as a club. Is that midfield two not good enough then, in your opinion?
I just think
for the Premier League.
It is, but like, injuries are going to happen, and you need to rotate. And I think we need somebody else. Like, we had Chalobah this year on, I think, was it? No, we got him on a permanent, but I don't think he's really got what it takes. Kane, he's an injury sick note. He's not going to play every game. So I think we need somebody else to come in there. Onama probably going to go. He's just not had any game time this year. So then you look at who else is in the squad, and yeah, we probably need somebody in that area.
And the attacking players, you mentioned right wing potentially a problem, but is Harry Wilson not the solution?
No, sorry, did I say right wing? Left wing.
A left wing. Well, presumably you're saying what Solomon's going to come in and fix that area, which I presume is probably going to push Neeskens Kebano out. So I read a lot that he's had a good season, Kebano.
Yeah, his best season probably in a Fulham shirt. He's been there for about 4 or 5 years now. It's just interesting that that Marco Silva can get a tune out of these players who weren't deemed to be good enough or were cast aside. He's managed to pick them back up and get them playing good football again.
Different manager, different style. Talk to us about Harry Wilson then. 26 attacking returns. Ironically, he actually underwhelmed on a loan at Bournemouth previously, but has done very well for you this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been quality. I think that's probably one of the key reasons why Mitrovic has got the number of goals he has. Just the delivery into the box has been that much better. 16 assists, I believe 8 of them were to Mitrovic, and then he also won a penalty, which would be an extra fantasy assist, if you want to call it that. Yeah, there's not too many players in the Championship that score double figures for goals and assists. I think Kearney's done it 1 year, Benrahma did it, and Watkins did it. And then there's probably only 1 or 2 more players that have done it as well. So,
how would you expect him to get priced up next year, Harry Wilson?
I hope it's around 6.65, probably 6.5.
You think that much? I was wondering if it could even be as low as 5.5.
Well, do you remember when the first year we came up, wasn't Sessegnon? He was 6.5, wasn't he? And Jota was 6.5, and they had scored a lot of goals and got a lot of assists that year as well.
Just think about what I say. Maybe Ismail Assar was 6 million, I think, going into this year. Who was proven Premier League as well, whereas Wilson, you could argue, hasn't proven it at the top level yet. I just wonder if he'd come in as high as 6.5, particularly if Mitrovic is going to be 6.5 or 7. I wonder if we might get a big discount on Wilson that could be quite interesting, actually.
I mean, those would be the 2 that I'd identify as going for. I wouldn't really be looking at anybody else in the squad until I kind of see how it takes shape. Potentially one of the fullbacks if they come in cheap and they're better quality. If a Nico Williams or something like that comes in, then yeah, I'll have a look at him. But yeah, Mitrovic and Wilson would be the 2 I'd be looking at.
Have you heard that rumoured to make that a permanent potentially with Williams? It must be of interest to him personally as well, knowing he's got Trent in his way.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's going to go back to Liverpool first and just assess and see what they can offer him. If he's not going to get the game time, I'm not sure if it's worth his while.
I don't know what I can offer him, mate. Back up to Trent. That's
and probably Gomez as well.
Yeah. At Liverpool, more stocked obviously at centre back with Kebano now as well. Talking of Liverpool, what can they expect from Fabio Carvalho? And is there any chance that he might still play for you next season?
That was the hope. I mean, wasn't there initial loan back in the deal that fell through in January?
Yeah, Silva was adamant he was definitely staying for the rest of the season. That's why the January move fell apart. It's basically now in principle agreed 5 million rising to 7.7 million, I believe, with add-ons. he's not going to go straight in the Liverpool team, is he?
I can't see it. I mean, he's played predominantly kind of that number 10, but then he tends to drift to the left. And if you look at Liverpool's squad, he's not getting ahead of Mane or Diaz on the left, unless Firmino goes and they play kind of like a 2 forwards and 1 in behind. That's the only place I can really see him. But like the competition for places in that squad is ridiculous.
Yeah.
their forward line is unreal. But yeah, in terms of what he can offer, really likes the ball at his feet, close control, good dribbler. He likes to run at the defenses. He's not afraid to take somebody on. Generally kind of short passing, little 1-2s to kind of open up space for himself and get into the box. Loves to drift into the box. I think most of his shots have been from there, bar 1 or 2. So yeah, really skillful player. He's got a lot about him, a lot of potential.
If he did come back for another year with you, would you be happy with that, or do you think he's left, let him go, let's move in a different direction? Like, would he be good enough to play for you in the Premier League next year, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'd be happy to have him back, even if it's just for the 1 year on loan. It just plugs a gap that we don't have to spend money on. So yeah, that's good. That's another area that we need to fill his boots. I don't know who's going to come in there. I mean, Bobby Reid's played kind of a similar role in the Prem last year under Parker, just that in behind the striker. But yeah, I'd take him back. I think some of the fans were a little bit peeved when the rumours that he was not going to sign a contract or he was going to leave, he was going to let it run down. But when he came back into the squad after injury, he really stuck his head down and looked like he was playing for the jersey. He hadn't just given up on the season. He was really playing, and even some of his comments in the last couple of games was almost as indicating that he kind of is still going to be around. I don't know whether that's going to be the case, but whether it's at Fulham or somewhere else, I think it would be in his best interest to play somewhere else next season rather than Liverpool.
Yeah, it would seem to make sense to try and get that deal done for him to stay for a year. I guess the only question from Liverpool's perspective will be they'll want to know if he's coming back to you that he's going to start 3/4 of the games, for example. And we don't actually know yet if he's obviously ready to make that step up. But certainly what we've seen of him this year suggests that there's every capability. And obviously coming back to yourselves, he knows the style, he knows the teammates, etc. It would feel like it would make sense for him to re-sign for you for a year. It does to me anyway.
Yeah,
I think probably most Liverpool fans would probably agree with that. I should imagine. It would just make sense from a continuity perspective for his development as a player. There's one fringe player I wanted to ask you about, Dara, and it probably links into the theme of FPL forwards this year being a bit shocking. Talk to me about Rodrigo Muniz, because he's basically back up to Mitch Rich. His goals per minute is good, isn't it? This is everyone's 4.5 million forward starting next season, isn't it?
I'm not sure if
official FPL don't listen.
I mean, his goals per game is good, but that's mainly because he's come on with 10, 15 minutes to
You're
go
winning 4-0.
and he's bagged himself a goal. But I don't think we've really seen enough of him to be able to judge what he can do. He showed little glimpses of his quality, but he hasn't started too many games. So again, backup striker. I think he knew coming in that's what he was going to be. But 8 million's a lot to spend on a striker, and I think Marco Silva will probably identify similar to like a Richarlison. He's trying to pluck this diamond out of Brazil and find the next Richarlison. So he's got a bit of skill about him. He's got a bit of movements. He obviously knows where the goal is, but I don't know whether he'll get the minutes.
Okay. If Carvalho was to come back, it sounds like the priority for you is defensive rather than offensive in terms of strengthening.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
But if he's not coming back, you're going to want to add something offensively, aren't you? Even if it's in numbers as well. But then people like Bobby Reid has shown he can do a job for you as a squad player in the Premier League, isn't he?
Yeah, he frustrates me though. The quality of the chances that he gets, he tends to miss quite a lot. But in terms of his link-up play, I mean, he could definitely sit in that hole behind Mitrovic and do a job. I just don't know if we want to be realistic about staying up this time. I think we might need a little bit better than that.
Have you heard anything in terms of budget for spending?
No, not a thing. Although we're probably up to our eyeballs in FFP, if that's even a thing anymore.
Well, I want to talk about that briefly. Is there a concern from that perspective? Because surely the parachute payments you've had over the last couple of years have helped sort with that. And one really important aspect in terms of this promotion in comparison to your last is you've got double the preparation time in terms of days. You've known for a long time that you were going to get promoted.
Yeah, I think that was like, in terms of being promoted last season, that was like the worst possible way to go up. I think we had 36 days between the playoff final and the first game of the season, and you had the World Cup going on at the same time. So trying to get players in was like next to impossible. This time we've got 100 and something days we know we're there. We can prepare and identify the players that we need to get and who needs to go. And yeah, I mean, like shipping out players last season, bloody hell, how do you do that?
So are you concerned financially then in any way?
A little bit. Like I did see Kieran Maguire, Price of Football, he put out all the financial stuff recently, and it didn't make for good reading.
But then you've got 90 odd million coming in just through TV money for next season now.
We do have that. We've also got fans back in the stadium, which probably hindered us quite a bit last year as well. And the new stand, is
the new stand going to be ready for August?
A portion of it, the lower half will be, and then the plan is to reopen the rest of it.
How is it taking 2 years to build one stand? Am I being stupid here, mate? I realise it's awkward because the Thames is right behind it, but it's about 2 years and one stand. What's going on?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of construction that's lasted that long in the last 2 years. So it must be something to do with COVID. I think it's probably gone way over budget as well.
I mean, these things always do in terms of stadium rebuilds. The ticket price is going to be quite expensive in that stand.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Everyone's kicking off. Yeah, flat £1,000, no matter whether you're on the touchline or in the centre circle.
You're going to be sitting there, mate?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
I don't suppose I will be either, but I get the appeal from, to be honest, they're trying to appeal a little bit to non-Fulham fans as well, aren't they? It sounds like.
It's possibly so. I don't know. When the rest of the stands open up, maybe we can give the swimming pool a go.
So there's going to be a swimming pool on top of the roof, is that right?
Swimming pool on top, yeah.
Not maybe a bit cold?
I hope it's heated. Might not.
How much is the swimming pool going to cost?
I haven't looked at it at all. No clue, man.
I wonder who had that bright idea. I know. Let's put a swimming pool on the roof.
I think they've got a gym in it, and the swimming pool is probably part of that. They're looking to, like, similar to what Spurs did, just be able to use the stadium outside of match days. So they've got like cafe, bar, restaurant, and try to make it a better match day experience as well, that people will hang around a bit later.
What's the feeling about Tony Khan at the moment? He seems very focused on what's happening with his wrestling promotion.
Yeah, I think I heard he was rumored to be buying something else recently as well. It's kind of unclear as to what role he's had this season. I don't know whether he's taken a step back or not. I think he probably does need to, and let somebody else look at the recruitment side of things. Let the manager have a bit more of an input, because he had this kind of data analyst, 2 boxes ticked bloody thing that he had going on. I don't know what it was, but clearly it wasn't working that well.
I think he met Silva for the first time at the draw at Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago, is what I read. He's obviously based out
in the
States.
Yeah, they haven't been in the country for a while. Come back when the celebrations kick in, yeah.
I suppose at the end of the day, if he gets it right off the pitch over the next 3 months or so, and then the season starts, then he can go back to his wrestling and stuff, can't he? But he's very actively involved in what's happening with AEW, isn't he?
Almost too much.
Yeah. I mean, are you comfortable seeing this chairman of your football club kind of TV persona in a wrestling entertainment?
It's embarrassing, to be honest. It really is. And I don't know if you've ever watched some of the videos, but like he does this, and he like flexes his muscles. He puts his hands in behind to make his muscles look bigger.
He comes across quite dorky.
He possibly is. He seems a bit childish to me.
You comfortable with that running your football club, mate?
I just don't want him on Twitter too much. Like he gets involved in things where he really shouldn't, and they're like attacking fans and having a go at other people. It's just like,
Does he tweet about Fulham a lot?
he can do. He loves to sing his own praises. Like he'll say, "Oh, that was my signing.
Yeah, I've noticed
I
this.
signed him." But when it goes wrong, he doesn't take responsibility. Signing. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Before I let you go, Dara, thank you so much for that. I just want to ask you on the game on Tuesday night. It's kind of a crunch decider between Bournemouth and Forest. Forest are 3 points behind. I noticed the goal difference is nearly identical as well. So, I mean, if Forest were to win, I think, is it 1-0? Is it identical going into the final day?
I think so it is close. Identical. Yeah.
I mean, so that's incredible. It really could be a most goals win shootout on the final day. Talk to me about those two teams. Who's more equipped? I don't know. You're probably going to dig into Parker a little bit. I know you don't really want to, but Forest have had an incredible run, haven't they? 1 point from their first 7. Cooper's done an incredible job, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean they had. Sorry, the dog's coming in now.
All right, dog.
Yeah, I mean if they had a better start to the season, Houghton just it seemed an absolute mess, but I think they're on a very similar points per game since Cooper's taken over that Fulham are something like 2 point something points per game. So to me, that indicates that they're probably the better of the two. If it is Bournemouth that go up, obviously they're in the better position at the moment. A draw probably will be good enough for them on Tuesday. I kind of fancy Forest to go up in the playoffs over 2 legs. I'd fancy them to beat the other teams, but you never know what can happen.
The problem for them is as well, it feels like the timing is so right for Forest that if they don't make it, a lot of their assets are going to get stripped out of there, aren't they? I know Jed Spencer's been on loan at Middlesbrough. Brennan Johnson looks a super talent. A lot of these players are going to get taken, aren't they?
I'd imagine so. I identified their keeper as well the last time Fulham went up. I think he's probably good enough for the Prem as well. He's he loves a bit of shithousing as well, just wasting time. But he's a good shot stopper. So yeah, they've got a decent squad there. Obviously need to add to it, but I think the manager's been key, really. He was one of the managers we were linked with before we got appointed Silva. And he got Swansea into the playoffs as well, didn't he? The year 2 years ago. So yeah, obviously a good manager.
They've not improved without him, have they?
No.
I think as well, concerning for Forest fans would be that if they don't make it up, surely Premier League clubs start looking at him, don't they?
Yeah, there's probably. I mean, how many managers have we changed this season in the Prem? Heaps, like probably more than half. So he's likely to get offered somewhere. I mean, Burnley, is that a permanent manager? No.
Well, I don't know. He's doing a great job, Michael Jackson, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if he'd get it full time, but I mean, he certainly deserves the rest of the season to see it out, I suppose. But there's a few others. You can see certain clubs where maybe if they fall out of favour, would maybe look at if they start slow. I think it's something like even like Wolves maybe are on a terrible run. If they start next season slowly, I think the sort of club would possibly look at Cooper actually.
Potentially.
Yeah, I think it's really important Forest go up, but for Bournemouth, it's really important. I think for different reasons they go up in terms of financially, they're pushing the limits, aren't they?
I think it's their last season of parachute payments, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they really need to get up.
It really is a pivotal game. You think Bournemouth, because they probably only need the draw Tuesday night, probably just about going to shade it, you think both teams will come up by the sounds of it?
I probably think both will. And I'd be happy enough with that. I mean, from a Fulham perspective, we just need to be better than 3 teams next year. And if those are 2 of the teams, then I think we'll probably be better than those 2 teams. We just need to be better than 1 more.
I wish you the best of luck with it, mate. We'll certainly speak again before the new season starts. Dara, where can everyone follow you on Twitter, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter at the Tinkerman. And I'm hoping to get more involved this season. I've been a bit busy with work, so I'll be a bit more active this year.
Well, welcome back, mate. Many congratulations again. Get the job done against Luton, who are also having a fantastic, incredible season. They're going to be in the playoffs as well. That's it's 5:15 kickoff Monday, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Best of luck, mate. Me and Serge will be back tomorrow with our review of the brilliant game week 34, or not, depending on how it went for you, or not even 34, 35. 34 was definitely bad. I don't know if 35 has been better or not for the majority of you, but we'll be discussing the fallout of it on Tuesday. Just leaves me to say thanks very much again to Dara. Cue music, please, man child.